before we put the actual Vanos units back onto the heads and everything, before we set timing, remember that sweet spot I was talking about earlier in the video? So if you take one of these gears, right? If you take one of these gears, if you take it and you lock this unit all the way to the right, you put it in one tooth at a time. Do you see how much I had to move this gear in order for this gear to actually go in? That's not what we want. We want the least play as possible. So the move for this is you got to find that sweet spot. You go one tooth at a time, and there you go. See how that just went in naturally? I didn't even have to rotate this gear. You go in, and it just wants to go in naturally. So you find that sweet spot. Again, this doesn't go in. I'm pushing at it. I have to twist this all the way too much until it actually goes in. And the sweet spot right here, it just goes in naturally. So once you find that sweet spot, what I would do to make your life easier is you take a little marker, like a little paint marker like this, and you make a little mark on the gear and the actual hub itself. You find the sweet spot for all four of these little gears, you remove them, and you attach them to the Vanos unit itself. Lefty is tighty, and righty is loosey. Then you take a 10mm and you take a 7mm, and you lock these up. You lock them in place. So again, lefty is tighty, righty is loosey in this case because they're reverse thread. Once you tighten these, you push this all the way down until the bottom's out, and you do the exact same thing for all four gears. As you can see, I already put the water pump and the thermostat and this little oil thing. I already put it all back on, and we're going to be replacing these crush washers. Meanwhile, when you're putting these Vanos units on, make sure you do not confuse which one goes where, because the easiest way to know is there's one big circle and one smaller one. The smaller one is always on the exhaust, but the wire has to be on the bottom. So don't confuse this, but that's the way it goes in. Make sure that your locking tools are in the cams. Rotate your hubs all the way to the right towards the engine. Once you locate them in and you find their sweet spot, they will naturally just want to go in both directions, like so. Once you find that sweet spot on the actual spline gears, and it goes in naturally, but then gets stuck, like it did in this case, what you want to do is you want to take 2 bolts of the Vanos and just kind of finger tighten them. Don't torque them down at all. Just do it enough so that this Vanos unit would hold itself up. If you look on the inside, the reason this Vanos unit isn't going further in is because this oil pump that's in the back of the Vanos, those holes are supposed to line up with the hub, right? So what you can do is you can take a flathead, push it on. If the spline gears are all good, which they are, it now goes in completely free up until you have about this much room in between the cover and the Vanos unit itself. Those rings that we replaced earlier, the big rings, they're sitting on the cover. And what you could do now is you take those bolts that you finger tightened earlier, and you could finger tighten them just a little bit more, and you could put in the rest of the bolts. Let's see how the rest of the bolts in. Don't torque them one single bit, just until they kind of stop themselves on the actual Vanos unit itself. You see these 6 bolts, 3 on each hub. You want to tighten them all the way. Tighten each bolt by taking turns. Don't tighten each bolt individually until it locks itself up. Just each bolt little by little until all 6 of them are tightened to about 10 Newton meters, and then loosen them by a quarter turn. Start from the top. Boom, quarter turn here, quarter turn here, quarter turn here, a little less, there you go. Quarter turn here, here, and here. And now once you have them loosened by quarter turn, you want to take the rest of your bolts that are on this Vanos unit and tighten them each bolt about a half a turn each until the entire Vanos unit is sitting up against the cover. That way you're ensuring that it all goes in nice and smooth, and it is going to be pretty much ready. Go from side to side so it'll sit down nice and evenly. About half a turn on each bolt. Keep an eye out on those little O-rings that we replaced earlier so they would not fall out. Once this entire Vanos unit is sitting up against the head and the cover, all the bolts are tightened to about 10 Newton meters. We leave these 6 bolts still a quarter turn loose. We still leave those there. Once the Vanos is sitting up on the head, we repeat the entire same procedure on this head, and then we'll get back to it. Once both units are completely tightened down, all the bolts, all these Vanos bolts are tightened down, all 6 of these and 6 of those top bolts are still quarter turn loose. You take the pin out from the harmonic balancer, you pull the pin out, and we're going to crank the engine in the opposite direction of rotation, so counterclockwise, until you feel a resistance, right? This procedure is important for timing because it compensates for play. That's what this procedure does. So you take your 32 mil and you rotate it counterclockwise until it stops on its own, doesn't go any further. We are not pulling these timing tools out of the camshafts quite yet. You just pull it against the direction of rotation until you can't. Like so. And now we put it back to top dead center. Get your pin ready, your locking pin. Pins are locked. Now, you want to take these 6 bolts on each side of the head, right? 3 on each cam, and you tighten them down to 10 Newton meters. All right, these 6 are done. Go on to this one. Lock these bolts up. Once 6 bolts are tightened completely, you can remove your locking pins from the camshafts. Remove them, put them aside, we don't need those anymore. You remove the locking pin from the harmonic balancer, and you give the engine 1 full clockwise rotation when it's back at top dead center again. Okay, get your pin ready. There we go, that is locked. And now we have access to the remaining 6 bolts on each head. You tighten all of these 3 on each cam, you tighten them all down to 10 Newton meters, and we're moving on from there. Once the remaining 6 on each head are tightened, on each hub, you can remove the locking pin and give the engine 1 full rotation yet again until it's back at true top dead center. Make sure nothing is hitting each other. All the valves are good. There's no extra touching of anything. Lock it up. And now we are going to be checking our timing. Right now we're at true top dead center. If you look at your cams, you can see how the cam itself has a little notch in it. You see how it's in between this notch? That means it's pretty good. That means it's freaking great. After this, we'll just put everything back to where it was. Make sure you replace all the gaskets, make sure you replace all the O-rings, all the crush washers that you've previously removed. And next clip you're gonna see is us starting up the car, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that it's running all great and good. So let's go. Once the coolant is in and once the new oil is in, before we start the car up, you wanna come up to your trunk, open up this box right here, and locate fuse number 54. If you ask, 54, number 54, that's the fuel pump. Fuse number 54, it's a 25 amp. It's gonna be located right there, right next to this brown one. You remove it because we want to prime the engine. By that, I mean we have to build up oil pressure for the Vanos to actually start working properly. So we're gonna be priming, we're gonna be, trying to start the car, and because the fuel pump is off, it's not gonna be igniting, there's gonna be no fuel, so we're gonna be priming it. That way we build up oil pressure and, let the oil kind of run everywhere else. So that's what we're gonna be doing. Working like a dream, dude. Busted the radiator, but that's fine, we'll fix that. No weird oil leaks, that's good. Woohoo! And that's that. This is how you do timing chain guides on an E39 M5. There's a lot more things coming, so make sure you like and subscribe, because dude, I'm just saying, there's literally a lot of things coming. Appreciate you. Later.